Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are located. I'm Gabriela Castro Smith, Workforce Strategy Advisor at Trading Motion. We work with mining companies to quantify the real risk of not having the right long-term and skilled workforce in place before it impacts timelines, cost, and performance. From there, we design and build tailored teams of professionals and technicians aligned with each project's operational realities. This podcast is about how leaders are making smarter workforce decisions in a rapidly evolving mining landscape, and it's about mining. Today, we have a great guest, Adam Hawkins, President at Global External. Adam is a leading expert in external affairs within the mining industry, with decades of experience across the full project life cycle. He has worked on projects globally and is recognized for advising companies on social, political, regulatory, and reputational risks critical to project success. He began his career in the US Senate and later spent 7 years with Rio Tinto. Adam has held key leadership roles, including president of the American Exploration and Mining Association, and brings strong expertise in mining policy and stakeholder strategy. He holds an MBA from Thunderbird School of Global Management and has also founded several mining ventures, contributing to projects such as the Cactus Mine. Welcome to our podcast, Adam.
Thank you for having me, Gabriela.
I would like to begin, Adam, if you want to talk about your experience in mining, what uh, what have you been seeing during all the years that you have been working in mining, and also what what is your background? I've already talked about it, but you better than me to explain all your background and your experience and expertise.
Well, let's start with your first question, which is, what's been changing. Uh, the the global market for a number of different metals has changed dramatically over my career, and the way that the conventional wisdom that I was brought up with was that you always had this inverse relationship between base metals and precious metals. So, when copper and nickel, and such were up, gold typically and other precious metals were down. Over the last 5+ years, we've seen a super cycle where we have both precious and base metal uh, kind of riding pretty high. A lot of this I attribute to the growth of the developed world, especially in the copper space. A lot of people like to talk about how it's the electrification of the grid and electric cars, and that's, it's a part of it, but what's really driving the force here is all the folks across the world, whether you're talking about in places like Nigeria or Bangladesh or China or whatever, that are moving from dirt floors to indoor plumbing and going on the grid. When you look at what we have in our total production for materials like copper and gold, just to use two examples, you look at the world's known supply, where those mines are in terms of their known life, and then when you look at new projects that are coming on board, we have a lot of work to do in this industry. And there is no place that better to start with it is than at the exploration phase. We have to get out there and test new theories. We have to start looking for ore in places that maybe we didn't look before, or at depths we didn't look before. And we have to get better about the way that we process materials and the way that we look at at site reconstruction for previously mined sites. So there's a lot of opportunity there. To answer your second question, I never would have picked this industry. It picked me. I had no profound interest in natural resources growing up. I have a few generations back in my family. We have some miners, but no one recent to my generation. It really just was kind of a fluke of getting assigned natural resource issues when I worked on the Hill, and just kind of moving forward from that. But I have absolutely no regrets in it. I love every day in this as an adventure. Um, and there's no better way I can explain it to folks other than it's like searching for buried treasure.
Yeah, and I agree, Adam. I like a lot, and I love this industry. It's very special, and as you said, here in the U.S., we are located in Phoenix, in Arizona, both of us, and it's there are so many opportunities in mining and in rare elements and all this. As you said, we are focusing in materials. So I ask you as an advisor, what you said, you have been for many years an advisor to mining companies. And there is this misunderstanding or misconception about what mining is and what many people think that mining is. So what is your message, let's say, to this misconception of people thinking wrongly about mining?
Well, let's start with everything that makes our modern day life possible, especially for those of us who live in big cities. Um, all of it starts with somebody getting up and going out and getting their hands dirty, whether it's farming, whether it's mining, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's food preparation. All the things that make our world tick are there because we have people out there performing very hard and in some cases dangerous, physically challenging work. Most people who live in the first world get pretty disconnected from that and don't realize it. One of the more I think transformative things that folks can do is to go out and visit a farm, go out and see what mining looks like and what's actually involved in it. Get a sense about how the power gets to the socket in your home or your office, and how the food gets to the supermarket. Um, Everything that makes the world work is on the periodic table. And everything on the periodic table, you can bust into three categories. The first are things that are grown, so those are agricultural products. The second are minerals, or things that are mined or extracted. And the third category I call mind, M-I-N-D. That's the product of human ingenuity and hard work using building blocks from the first two. You cannot solve modern day life with hope, with outrage, with denial, or with depending on others to actually do that for us, who in some cases don't really care about the way that they leave the planet, the way that they treat their fellow humans. We owe it to ourselves to pay more attention and to try and bring this stuff as close to us as possible so we can have a seat at the table. What I do tell our hardline opponents when we can have a conversation, and sometimes that's tough to even get to that point, is come and join us. If you have doubts about what we do as an industry, come and join us. Help us do what we do better, And I can almost assure any of them that they'll learn about this in the process, and they'll have appreciation for just how many people work hard to make sure that we are doing it right.
Yeah, I agree that things, generally things are doing right in the mining industry. And there's a misunderstanding or misconception about what mining is. But as you mentioned too, it's hard to bring those people to the table to explain what, or to a mine, for them to see the reality of mining. And in this regard, Adam, do you think that the industry is struggling, or it's hard for them to communicate effectively to the public what mining is? Do you think that we need to do a different a different way of presenting mining, maybe more marketing, maybe the way we are doing it is not correct? I don't know. What do you think?
I think the biggest room in the world is room for improvement. And even the ones that are doing it quite well, there's always opportunities to grow and to better refine the way that we engage with folks and we communicate about what we do. The rub to it, Gabriela, is what we do is complicated, and it's hard to condense into small, easy to digest talking points. A lot of the folks who are in our industry have very, very detailed technical understandings of what they do, which is great. You want that in the process, but in some cases can make it hard to for them to explain what it is they're doing to audiences and folks who don't have that technical background. It's it's challenging, but it's solvable. I generally find that the best way to do it is to find where folks are, what their attention span is, and try and meet them where they're at.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you, Adam. And there's always, we can always improve the way we present what mining is. And I would like to talk with you about workforce and external relations. As we all know, it's a challenge now find the right and skilled talent in the United States, in Canada. And in your experience, how often do workforce challenges intersect with community and stakeholders dynamics? And are companies connecting those dots effectively?
You know, well, let's start with regardless of whether you're talking about a surface mine, an underground mine, operating mines that have been in continuous operation or in some form of operation for 50, 100 plus years, there is no mining without miners. And you've got to make sure that you have a workforce available to be able to handle the needs of the operation, whether we be talking about skilled or unskilled trades. In a lot of places, we don't have the virtue of having workforce in place, of having educational resources, or even for some of the far off operations, even people. And so we have to shift on the fly and figure out how to accommodate for that. And then there's a lot of things that kind of go along with that. But we have, I have seen workforce as one of the bigger issues that we flag in terms of exploring whether or not it makes sense to develop a mineral resource in a new place. in terms of being able to reach folks about it, I think that depends on where you're at. Some operations might be close to areas where you have a lot of competing um, uh, sources of jobs for folks, which kind of creates its own challenge, even if you do have a good supply of trained and just kind of even unskilled labor. Um, and in other places, sometimes it's about attracting folks to come out to places that they haven't thought about before and help augment and the workforce and communities that are too small to presently support it. So it's something that operations have to take in mind, and they have to be thinking about it far enough out to make sure that they've got the people in place to staff the mine when you flip the switch.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I discuss about with the mining companies, that it's hard to understand around a project or around an operation what workforce would be available, because obviously the workforce is the mining industry is competing with other industries, and they want to, maybe the new generation want to work in a city more than in a remote area, and that makes things more difficult, even though that now the new technologies are helping the new generation to take those jobs, rather than going to a mine. To maybe they can, as we see with some mines that are being built, or at this moment there are building some mines where you can, where the workforce would be in a room moving computers, or moving what has to be done in the mine, but in a room. And that will help a lot the mining industry to bring more new generation workers to work in the mines. That's what I've been studying for the last 2 years, and it's encouraging for many mining companies. And Adam, where in which other, I know that you are located in Arizona, and which other markets, which other places do you provide advice to mining companies?
We do diligence work pretty much in every corner of the world that there's a case to be built for economic geology. So we have some work we're doing right now in Central Asia, quite a bit throughout the Americas. Here in the United States, we have quite a bit in Arizona. I would say second to that, Nevada, Alaska, Utah, Michigan, Minnesota. But again, it tends to follow where the geology is. Interestingly enough, right now, I mean, I think there's a lot of interest in some places based on shifts in the politics and the leadership of those areas. We've seen quite a bit of change in Argentina over the last few years, and more recently now with Venezuela adopting a mining law. More and more interest with the potential for exploring there.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting. And what are the differences that you see in all the different countries that you are working? What are the biggest differences that you see?
It's probably easier for me to tell you, and it's a much shorter list if I tell you what they have in common. The one thing I have found to be true pretty much anywhere we've done work is that water is always an issue. We
Mhm.
always, sometimes you have too much and sometimes you have too little. Uh, I've yet to find a project where we could model it in a way that you had that factor just right. Uh, Second is, kind of trying to find ways of providing stable inputs to a consistent operation, whether you're talking about electricity, whether you're talking about workforce, whether you're talking about transportation, um, both for products going in and coming out of the mine. And then, it really boils down to the stability of operations, and what factors can kind of get into the midst with that. And political shifts can certainly change things. We've seen quite a bit of that happening across the world lately, both in the good and bad categories. Um, you know, uh, you really do have to have your head wrapped around what your strategy is to be able to continuously operate a facility when you're talking about the type of capital investments we have to make into hard rock mineral developments. You want to know that you can see it through the life of the project.
Okay. Oh, interesting. So I suppose that you will be traveling all around the world with all these projects and you visit the
Sure.
project.
Yeah. I try to put boots on the ground at
What's on
pretty
the
much
ground?
everything that we work. Some places that's harder than others. I've had a couple of projects, one where it took about 7 days to get in and another 7 days to get out, just because of the
Okay.
amount of time that was involved in getting there. Um,
Yeah.
and there are some things that change. So I mean, I think you probably are well aware, the mining industry in Mexico has changed quite a bit over the last 8 to 10 years. Um, I fathom it will continue to change. Um, some administrations are more favorable to mineral developments and exploration and continuity of operations, and some aren't.
Yeah, exactly. And we have to go with the flow of government in many cases. So Adam, thank you very much. We're at the end of our podcast. I really appreciate that you accepted to be my guest.
Of course,
And
happy to.
you have if you have anything to say to our audience in some words, and we wrap up our podcast.
Um, I think probably the one thing I would leave your listeners with is the solution to trying to do this stuff right is to make sure that we can bring as much of the production and all of the kind of extra steps of the secondary tertiary production assembly process for the things that we need in modern day life, as close to us and to our neighbors and our allies. Uh, in my opinion, there is no way that we can effectively bring all of that together without a strong North American partnership,
Yeah,
and that comes through continued and enduring trade relations and partnerships between the United States, Canada, and Mexico.
yeah, I agree, Adam. Thank you very much to our listeners, and please follow us in our social media, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Have a good day, afternoon, or evening.
You too. Talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.